The lake is very still in the morning. Tony's lake, Stark's lake, the one he picked for reasons that were probably partly tactical and partly aesthetic, and partly the thing that neither of them ever really talked about, which was that Tony Stark, for all his noise and velocity and constant motion, wanted things to be quiet at the end of the day, wanted a door he could close, wanted a view that was just a view, not a tactical grid or a threat assessment, just water and sky and the ordinary permanence of things that don't require maintenance. The morning after the funeral is the morning after the funeral. There is no other way to put it. It is the specific morning that follows a day like that, pale, still, with the quality of a world that has exhaled and does not yet know what the next breath is for. Steve is on the dock before anyone else. This is not unusual for him. He has been getting up before everyone else, since before getting up before everyone else was a function of a serum. It is simply the shape of his mornings. The water, here at this hour, is the gray of pewter, smooth as something poured, the far shore barely distinct from the sky. A heron stands motionless at the edge of the reeds, so still that for a moment he mistakes it for a gray branch fallen into the water. Then it moves, one slow, deliberate step, and is recognizably itself. He watches it for a while. He is very good at watching things for a while. He has been trying, in the hours since the field, to do the accounting. This is not the right word for it, but it is the word he has for the process. The slow, methodical work of understanding what was spent and what remains, what was found and what was lost in the finding. He has done this accounting many times over the course of his life. He got good at it in the war, when every operation left a ledger, and you had to read the ledger honestly, or the ledger would read you. Natasha. He will begin here, because beginning here is the honest place to begin, because Natasha is the one he hasn't been able to look at directly yet. He has been moving toward it, the way you move toward a source of heat from the outside in, getting closer by degrees, letting the body acclimate, not arriving all at once. She chose, and she was right to choose. And the choosing was the most Natasha thing she could possibly have done, which is a cold comfort, and also the only comfort available. He has known people who went like this before. He has known people who made the decision in the field that their life was the resource worth spending. He knows what it means to make that decision. He has been on the edge of making it himself more times than he has told anyone. And each time the edge was there, it was there not because he was defeated, but because the arithmetic came out clear, and he has always been willing to pay the arithmetic. Natasha did the arithmetic. He honors the arithmetic. He grieves her anyway, which is not a contradiction. It is just grief, which has never cared much about logic. He thinks of her in the car, rain-doubled streetlights. That's the thing about you, Steve. You always mean it. He thinks of her in conference rooms and briefings and extraction points in 12 countries, whose names he will never say in public. He thinks of her making bad coffee in the compound kitchen at 4 a.m. and being unapologetic about it. He thinks of her making the call that ended his career as an officially sanctioned hero, which she did without explanation, and for reasons that turned out to be exactly the right reasons. He thinks of her at a table with bad tea, watching him think, waiting for him to arrive at the same place she already was. She was almost always already there. He watches the heron. He breathes. Tony. He will be less precise with Tony in this accounting because the precision feels wrong. Tony Stark was not a simple entry in any ledger. He was the kind of person who showed up on both sides of the column and spent most of his life in motion between them, which was probably the thing Steve understood least about him for the longest time, and came to understand most completely in the end. You can contain contradictions. You can be difficult and good and afraid and fearless, all at once, all in the same moment, and the contradictions don't cancel. They are the thing. They are the full picture of what a person is. He and Tony were never going to be simple. From the first argument in the Quinjet over the North Atlantic to the last conversation at the lake, they were never going to be simple. The love was real. The conflict was real. Both were real at the same time, and the fact that they ran out of time to resolve everything they needed to resolve is the thing he will carry, because that is the kind of loss that doesn't have a clean edge. But he will carry something else too, which is the snap, the hand that closed. The man who spent most of the time Steve knew him trying to control all possible outcomes, who was genuinely brilliant at controlling outcomes, who built a lake house and a daughter and a good life as a form of control over the variable that frightened him most. Tony Stark, who walked into the last moment of his life with his hands open. Steve will carry that. He will carry it always. It is the cleanest thing he knows. Bucky comes to find him on the dock. He doesn't say anything for a while, which is always how it is with Bucky, which is one of the best things about Bucky. He is not someone who fills silence, because silence makes him uncomfortable. He is someone who has lived inside more silences than most people will ever inhabit, and he knows their variety, the hostile ones, the loaded ones, the comfortable ones, the ones that are simply two people sitting with the same thing. This is the last kind. They sit on the dock in the pale morning, the water smooth below them, the heron gone to wherever herons go, the far shore gradually gaining definition as the light increases. Eventually, Bucky says, "How are you doing it?" He doesn't explain what he means. He doesn't need to. Steve understands. How are you functioning? How are you upright? How are you operating at normal capacity after everything that was paid to get here? Steve thinks about it honestly. He says, "I don't know that I am." Bucky nods. This is not worrying to him. This is, if anything, reassuring. The thing that would worry him is Steve saying he's fine. Steve saying he doesn't know how he's functioning is Steve being accurate about himself, which Bucky has spent 70 years trying to get him to do. He says, "You're going to return the stones." It's not a question. He already knows. Bucky already knows, with Steve, in the specific way of someone who has read the same face in the same situations, enough times that the conclusion is derivable at a distance. He knows. He has known probably since the moment Steve explained what returning the stones would require. Steve says, "Yeah." Bucky is quiet for a moment. He says, "Don't do anything stupid till I get back." And Steve looks at him, and the look is everything. It is 80 years, and a rope bridge, and ice, and goats, and Edinburgh, and Wakanda, and a field full of ash, and a field full of lightning, and all of it compressed into a look that does not have words adequate to it, and so has never needed them. He says, "How can I? You're taking all the stupid with you." These are the exact words. They are the same words Bucky said in 1943 in a Brooklyn bar on the night before Steve shipped out, and Bucky's expression was already doing the thing it did when he was committing something to memory in case it turned out to be the last time. They are the same words 60 years later on a different dock, in a different light, in lives that have been changed beyond recognition and remain, in the ways that matter, exactly the same. Bucky laughs. He hasn't heard Bucky laugh, really laugh, the full version, the one from before all of it, and so long that for a moment he can't place the sound. Then he places it. Then he wants to sit with it for a while, the way you sit with something you thought you'd lost. They sit on the dock until the light is full. He thinks about Wakanda, on the hillside, the ridiculous, small-eared goats, and Bucky's face, looking at ease, in the way Steve had never seen it look before. He thinks about how long it took, and how much it cost to get Bucky to that hillside. He thinks about the years of ice, and handlers, and programming, and all the layers of damage that had to be worked through before the face on that hillside was available. He thinks it was worth it. Every mission, every impossible threshold, every time he refused to accept that the person he knew was gone for good. It was worth it for this. For the man sitting on the dock next to him, drinking bad coffee and watching the water, and requiring nothing from Steve except that Steve be here. He is here. He is going soon. He is here now. He says goodbye to Sam. This is its own thing, its own chapter within the chapter. There is not enough space to do it fully, and he is aware of this, and he does it anyway. Sam Wilson is one of the finest people he has ever known, not in the heroic sense, not in the official sense, but in the real sense, the sense that counts when the cameras are off and the mission is done, and someone has to figure out what comes next. In every situation that has ever required someone to figure out what comes next, Sam has been one of the first people to have a clear-eyed answer. He hands him the shield. He doesn't explain. It would be an insult to explain. Sam has run more operations at his side than either of them has ever counted, and he knows what the shield is and what it costs and what it means. And if Steve's judgment is sound, and he believes his judgment is sound with complete clarity, Sam Wilson is the right person to carry it forward. Sam takes it. He holds it the way you hold something that carries weight beyond its own mass. He says, "Why me?" Steve says, "Because it was never about the serum." Sam holds the shield. He looks at it. He looks at Steve. He says, "You know, this doesn't make us even for the running." Steve smiles. He says, "I'll be back before you can miss me." He won't be. They both know this, but it is the right thing to say. It is the kind of thing you say when you love someone and you're leaving, and there's no version of goodbye that covers what you actually mean. So you say the version that can be said, that keeps the moment from cracking open under its own weight. Sam nods. The nod means everything. He goes. The quantum realm is the quantum realm, that strange, dimensionless space between moments where time becomes navigable, where the fixed points of the universe can be approached and touched and rearranged if you have the right equipment and someone like Tony Stark's mathematical genius at your disposal. He navigates it. He has done it before. He knows the feel of it now, the specific unreality of existing in a place that has no present tense, only coordinates. He returns the stones. Each one goes back to its moment, its guardian, its proper location in the chain of events that led to this. He does not linger. He does not interfere. He has thought about this very carefully, the granular ethics of moving through time with full knowledge of what is coming, and his conclusion is the same conclusion he always comes to. His job is not to change things. His job is to do the right thing in the moment that is given to him. The rest is not his to determine. He returns each stone. He does not stop. He does not go into any room he should not go into. He does not change anything, except once he allows himself to be somewhere he is not supposed to be. Not in the doing something sense, not in the interfering with the timeline sense. He stands on a street in 1949, in Brooklyn, in the evening, and he looks at an ordinary brownstone on an ordinary street, and the door opens, and she is there. Peggy Carter, in 1949, in a doorway, in a dress the color of a summer garden, looking at whoever she was expecting and finding, instead, him. This version of him, older than he should be, with a particular face that has been through the particular things it has been through, but recognizable. Her eyes know him immediately. There is no confusion in them. There is no startled recalibration. There is only recognition, the fast arriving kind, the kind that happens when you see someone you have been carrying in your chest for a very long time. She says his name. He says hers. And then she steps back from the door and opens it wider, and there is lamplight behind her, and a gramophone, and a room that is exactly the kind of room you would expect Peggy Carter to have built. Orderly and warm, with books organized in a system that would make sense to anyone who understood her, and bewildered anyone who didn't. He goes inside. Let this be slow. Let this be the part where time changes quality, where it stops measuring itself in missions, and coordinates, and moves, and counter-moves, and begins measuring itself in something more like breath. Something more like the particular light in a room in the evening when the lamp is on, and the street outside is quiet. He dances with her. It is a slow song. Of course it is a slow song. It is 1949, and the radio plays what the radio plays, and the radio at this hour plays the slow kind, the come-home kind, the kind that was written for exactly this. Two people at the end of things, not quite ready to stop, not ready to say goodnight, not ready for the evening to be over. He is not a good dancer. This is an objective fact. He was not a good dancer before the serum, because he was too small and too self-conscious, and kept apologizing to his partners. And he was not a good dancer after the serum, because he was too large and too self-conscious, and kept forgetting to apologize. The serum did not fix dancing. The serum fixed almost everything except the things about being Steve Rogers that were irreducibly Steve Rogers, and his dancing was one of those things. She doesn't mind. She never minded. They danced slowly in the lamplight of a room in Brooklyn in 1949, not talking, not needing to talk, past the point where talking is required, past the point where any of the things that need to be said are sayable through language, into the place where the only language left is the slow weight of being in the same room, moving in the same direction, following each other's lead. He can feel that she is real. He has dreamed about her enough times, and the dreams were always slightly wrong, some detail off, some quality of her presence that was the right approximate, but not the exact thing. This is the exact thing. The particular way she holds herself, the specific warmth she generates, the way her hand fits in his, with the absolute conviction of something that belongs where it is. He closes his eyes. He stops thinking about the next thing, For the first time, and he cannot count how long, in all the years of ice, and all the years of service, and all the years of running, and all the years of trying to hold the world together with what he had. For the first time, he is not thinking about the next thing. He is here, just here, a slow song, a gentle sway. Two people, dancing. He grows old. He does not grow old the way people expected. There was, he is aware, a version of this story that the people who loved him might have imagined. Something still heroic, still symbolic. The old soldier standing guard. He doesn't do that. He hangs up the symbolic weight without ceremony and just lives. He is a person. He has always been a person. The person part was always the true part. The other parts, the shield, the title, the particular place he occupied in the imagination of a nation and then a world, those were real and they mattered, and he carried them with everything he had. But they were not the center. The center was always this: one person choosing every day to show up for the life in front of him. First for the war, then for the work, now finally for this. He grows old in the way that turns out to be the most ordinary thing in the world, which is one step at a time. Spring becoming summer, becoming autumn, becoming winter, each one arriving in its season, taking its time, depositing what it deposits, and moving on. He grows old in a house with a garden and a gramophone, and a woman who keeps her books in a system only she fully understands, and who is still, in every room she walks into, the most compelling person in it. He learns things he did not know how to learn before. He learns that rest is not weakness, it is maintenance. That stopping sometimes is what allows starting again. He learns to cook better, which takes longer than it should, which he finds very funny, which he finds worth it for the fact of finding it funny. He learns the names of the neighbors' children, and then the names of their children, and he watches the street change through the seasons and the decades, and he is there for all of it, present and accounted for. They sit on the porch in the evenings. They read. They argue occasionally about things that don't matter, in the way that people who love each other are sometimes allowed to argue about things that don't matter, because they have already made all the important decisions, and the unimportant ones are what's left. She is right more often than he is, which he would have bristled at once, and which he has long since made peace with, because she is simply right more often, and fighting reality is not something he has time for anymore. He does not go back. He has thought about this, the question that people would eventually ask, the question Sam and Bucky would sit with in the years that followed. He does not go back because going back means leaving, and leaving means the thing that has been given is taken away again, and he is not willing. He has been willing to pay almost everything in his life. He has paid and paid and paid. The Brooklyn Alley coin, the Atlantic coin, the Ice coin, the Century coin, all of it paid and paid again. He has been willing to pay because the paying was right. This is not a thing he is willing to pay. He stays. He grows old. He has, for the first time in his life, an accurate count of his days. He is sitting on a bench by the water. The bench is old. The water is the water. He is an old man on a bench, which is an unremarkable thing, the most ordinary thing in the world, the thing that happens to people when they have had the years to become it. His hands, on the top of the bench back, are his hands, recognizable as themselves, but changed, the way everything changes, mapped by the specific topography that time makes of the bodies of people who have lived in them. He has been sitting here a while. The afternoon light is the afternoon light. A duck on the water ignores him with the particular, focused indifference of ducks. He is not thinking about anything very specific. He is just sitting, which is something he is now very good at, having learned it slowly, having come to it late, but having come to it. Two men come down the path. He knows them before they arrive. He knows the specific rhythm of Sam Wilson's walk, which he has matched pace with on morning runs for years, and which does not change, fundamentally, with time. He knows the shape of Bucky Barnes's silhouette, has known it since before the war, since Brooklyn, since the specific way Bucky has always held himself when he's looking at a situation he wants to be calm about. They come and sit with him. Sam says, "How was it?" He is quiet for a moment, looking at the water. He says, "It was beautiful." Sam looks at him. Sam looks at the ring on his finger, the ring that is simple and gold, and that she put there 50 years ago in a ceremony in a garden in Brooklyn with the neighbors' children throwing flowers, because that was what she wanted. And she always got what she wanted when she wanted it enough and chose to ask for it. Sam looks at the ring and he nods, very slowly, and his face does the thing it does when he is being moved by something and has decided that the being moved is acceptable. Bucky doesn't say anything. Bucky is looking at him with the expression he has been wearing, off and on, for as long as Steve has known him. The expression of a person who is seeing someone exactly where they are supposed to be and finding the seeing to be enough. He looks satisfied, not merely happy. Satisfied, the deeper, stiller version of the thing. The duck crosses the water. The afternoon holds them. Steve Rogers, old and still, and in possession of the most ordinary, extraordinary thing, which is a life, a whole one, lived all the way to its edges, sits between the two people he loves, and breathes the air of a world that came through everything it had to come through, and is still here. He is still here. Continuity note. Steve made the choice. He stayed in 1949. He danced. He grew old with Peggy. He gave the shield to Sam on the bench by the water. He is an old man now, on the right side of his life. Cheech 12 is the closing. Peace. Warmth. The final image of the dance.